أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستنصره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها كل محدثة بدعة كل بدعة ضلالة كل ضلالة في النار. We praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious and most merciful. Praise Him, seek His help and forgiveness, who bear witness there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we bear witness that Muhammad is the last and final messenger. Peace and blessing of Him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Tonight, inshallah, we'll continue our journey with this beautiful surah, Surah Alnour. We mentioned at the beginning of the Tafseer of Surah Alnour that Surah Alnour contains a lot of ahkam and a lot of etiquettes and manners. And one of the manners we discussed previously in verse 27, it speaks about the manners of visiting others. What time should we choose to visit and what we do and what the etiquettes involved with that. And we discussed that previously. Tonight, inshallah, we'll discuss similar verses which discuss the manners inside the household, which is ayah أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يستأذنكم الذين ملكت أيمانكم والذين لم يبلغوا الحلم منكم 3 مرات من قبل صلاة الفجر وحين تضعون ثيابكم من الظهيرة ومن بعد صلاة العشاء 3 عورات لكم ليس عليكم ولا عليهم جناح بعدهن طوافون عليكم بعضكم على بعض كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات والله عليم حكيم. This is verse 85 of Surah Alnour, which is translated as follows. O you who believe, let those whom your right hands possess, and those who have not reached puberty among you ask permission of you at 3 times. So we can record these 3 times: before the dawn prayer, before Salat al-Fajr, and when you put aside your garments for rest, which is at noon, which is a normal or traditional time for resting, which is at noon time, or around Dhuhr time, after Dhuhr time, and after the evening prayer, after Isha prayer. So these are the 3 times that are not recommended for a visit. The one before Salat al-Fajr, and one from Dhahira time or noon time after Salat al-Dhuhr, and one after Salat al-Isha. These are 3 times of privacy for you. There is no blame upon you nor upon them beyond those periods, for they continually circulate among you. Some of you among others, thus does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make clear to you the verses, and Allah is knowing and wise. And when the children among you reach puberty, let them ask permission at all times, as those before them have done. Thus does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make clear to you His verses, and Allah is knowing and wise. Some vocabulary from the ayah. استأذن يستأذن, to seek permission or ask permission. ملك يملك اليمين means referred to she or his slave back then. عورة or عورات, which is the time of when someone is relaxed at their home and they become undressed. بلغ or يبلغ, to reach or arrive or attain. حلم means puberty or sexual maturity. Fajr means dawn or daybreak. وضع يضع, to put down or lay aside. ثوب or ثياب, garment or clothing. ظهيرة, midday or noon. Isha, evening, disappearance of twilight. بين يبين means to explain in details. طفل or أطفال, plural, means children. So these verses deal with the privacy within the home among the residents. So before Ayah 27, it was the etiquette of visiting strangers or visiting relatives not among the household. But this ayah in particular gives us more details about what shall we do among ourselves as family inside the same household. We need to seek permission for entering the house of another, and here also that's from Ayah 27. And here the comfort and security of home is completed with a complementary ruling requiring members of the same household to seek permission from each other before entering each other's room or private areas. The bedroom in particular. The virtue of modesty, initially implanted through divine ordinaries, was in the course of time to become custom and habit. And we spoke about the spiritual training from the beginning, with the revelation from the Quran, also to come to prepare the Sahaba for these rulings. So it wasn't happening at once, but they were already prepared. In the previous ayat, Allah spoke about the cover, the hijab, and how Muslim women should cover. And also here talk about privacy and isti'dhan and the etiquettes inside the same household. So we could be related to each other, but we still need to make it like for your parents, for your siblings, for your spouse sometimes. So this view is supported by the first verse of the surah. It is understood from the context that adult family members should wait for permission before entering private areas at all times. So we need to teach our children, even before they reach the age of puberty, we need to teach them from young age to knock and seek permission before enter. Because that will train them, because when it's time that is prohibited for them, now they know, and it's not too late to train them. So from young age, we are recommended to teach our children these Islamic manners and etiquettes. So adult family members should wait for permission before entering private areas at all times, but that the slave and young child are exceptions due to particular circumstances. But that, yet at the 3 times of privacy when people may be partially addressed, asleep or enjoying intimacy, even those are to observe caution. Teaching them to do so is the responsibility of the head of the household, the father and the mother. Ibn Abbas related that in the early years of Islam, Muslims who had houses could not afford the luxury of curtains and partitions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the servants and children to ask permission at those 3 times. So they didn't have enough money to buy curtains and have their own private rooms. So that was why it was highlighted in this revelation to remind people these certain times don't come towards that area. Later Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for them, and they obtained curtains and partitions which served in place of that. It does not mean, however, that the verses were abrogated, for the permission is still required to enter. So it doesn't mean that the verses have been cancelled or abrogated. Whenever a child obtains puberty, he is considered an adult. So children, as we said before, children should be taught that when parents retire to the private quarters or the bedrooms, they are not to be disturbed unnecessarily. And the lesson may be reinforced by temporarily locking the door. So we need to teach them. Some kids, they open the door. So when they find the door locked, they start knocking and asking, open the door. So maybe this is a way of teaching them. So we tell them verbally, we teach them the theory, and then practically by locking the door, just in case if they open it or they try to open it, it's locked. So they learn. So in fact, every Muslim is under the obligation to take precaution at times of rest or undress. So these 3 times you have to take extra caution. Of course, every time we have to knock and we have to ask permission outside these 3 times. So it's not excluded to these 3 times, but these 3 times are extra caution, because this is the time people rest. This is the time people get undressed and relaxed in their own private parts or private rooms or quarters. So, and physical maturity is confirmed by the one set of menstruation in female, or the males when the voice change or they have sweet dreams. 15 years has been designated by many scholars at the age of maturity if there is absence of these signs. So 15 or before if there are signs, otherwise 15 is the age of maturity or puberty. So whenever a child attains puberty, he is considered an adult and must ask permission at all times. As do those who matured before him, the ruling in these verses apply to both sexes, whether among children, slaves, mahram, relatives or others. Both verses end with a reminder that out of His knowledge and wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made clear the legislation contained in them. As Allah says, كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. And in ayah number 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about وَالْقَوَاعِدُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ اللَّاتِي لَا يَرْجُونَ نِكَاحًا فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْهِنَّ جُنَاحٌ أَنْ يَضَعْنَ ثِيَابَهُنَّ غَيْرَ مُتَبَرِّجَاتٍ بِزِينَةٍ وَأَنْ يَسْتَعْفِفْنَ خَيْرٌ لَهُنَّ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And women of post-menstrual age, old women, who have no desire for marriage, there is no blame upon them for putting aside their outer garments, but not displaying adornment. But to modestly refrain is better for them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hearing and knowing. Qa'id or qawa'id means inactive women, or past the age of childbearing, or menopause, what they call it these days. Raja or yarjun, to expect, or hope for, desire. Nikah, marriage, or contract of marriage. Mutabarrij or mutabarrijat, plural, for female. One who makes himself or herself noticeable or conspicuous. One who displays himself or herself. Here, women who show their beauty or adornment before non-mahram. It's called tabarruj. To those elderly women who are no longer attractive nor attracted to men, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them permission for a degree of relaxation, because it makes sense. No one is having desire in them, and they don't have desire in anyone. So Allah giving them a lighter degree of relaxation of those rules. It doesn't mean they have to take off their hijab, but they still relax the outer garment. That's all. Or the manner of dress will be a little bit relaxed than the younger females. However, Allah still advised them to protect their modesty and don't do tabarruj. So a number of early and later scholars have ruled that such a woman may also travel without a husband or mahram. So there's some fiqhi rule in regards to that. That's one. That's one where elderly women can travel without mahram, because there is no matma', there is no fitna. I will come back to that. And also in terms of some of the rulings in regards of fiqh al-salah or fiqh al-wudu, that's one of the violation of the wudu is touching an mahram. A male touch a woman, she's not a mahram. Okay, there is a lot of debate and a lot of opinions in regards to that. And majority of scholars says a non-mahram touch a non-mahram, or a man touch a woman that's not mahram to him. It means his wudu is invalid and he has to make wudu, she has to make wudu. Alright? However, they made an exception for elderly women, those same with the same ayah, those where there's no matma', those where there's no fitna involved, then you still cannot, you don't have to make wudu after, if you touch their hands or something like that. Okay? Again with the travel, some scholars, early and later scholars, have ruled that such a woman may also travel without a husband or mahram relative. They explained putting aside the garment as a meaning the outer garment, or hijab in some narration, which conceal lighter clothing were worn at home. This was further clarified by such statement as, she may remove her cloak and appear in a long dress and head cover. When asked whether the age of women could show dyes and ornaments. Aisha radiallahu anha is quoted as saying, O company of women, it is the same for all of you. Allah has permitted you to beautify yourselves without displaying. That is, it is not allowed that anyone see of you that which is forbidden. So that means it's for all women, meaning their bodies and decorative ornaments as well. Shouldn't be shown to the non-mahram. Thus conditioned as stated in the verse are the women who be well past the age of childbearing, I mean older women, that she has no desire for men, would not be expected to attract them, and that she does not entertain any wish to display herself to appear attractive. So this is the aql or the reasoning behind the legislation. Otherwise, she will not qualify for this allowance. Her decision must be based upon the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of the most intimate thoughts and feelings. Because an older woman may suffer from weaknesses of body, or illnesses, or disability, or some kind, the verse provides facilitation. Yet, despite permissibility, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concluded with advice that whenever possible, it is better to refrain out of modesty. Several commentators have remarked that if this is the case of elder women, what can be inferred regarding younger ones? Quite the opposite. So the conclusion of this ayah, so there's some relaxation for older age women. However, it is recommended for them to cover and wear the full hijab. In ayah 61, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ عَلَى الْأَعْمَى حَرَجٌ ولا على الأعرج حرج ولا على المريض حرج ولا على أنفسكم أن تأكلوا من بيوتكم أو بيوت آبائكم أو بيوت أمهاتكم أو بيوت إخوانكم أو بيوت أخواتكم أو بيوت أعمامكم أو بيوت عماتكم أو بيوت أخوالكم أو بيوت خالاتكم أو ما ملكتم مفاتحه أو صديقكم ليس عليكم جناح أن تأكلوا جميعا أو أشتاتا إذا دخلتم بيوتا فسلموا على أنفسكم تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تعقلون. A long verse with a lot of ahkam as well. There is not upon the blind any restriction, nor upon the lame restriction, nor upon the ill restriction, nor upon yourselves in eating from your own houses, or the houses of your fathers, or the houses of your mothers, or the houses of your brothers, or the houses of your sisters, or the houses of your father's brothers, or the houses of your father's sisters, or the houses of your mother's brothers, or the houses of your mother's sisters, or from houses whose keys you possess, or in the houses of your friend. There is no blame upon you whether you eat together or separately. But when you enter houses, give greetings of peace to one another. A greeting from Allah, blessed and good. Thus does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make clear to you the verses that you may understand. Some words from the ayah. Haraj, restriction, impediment, or feelings of guilt or embarrassment. Anfusun means souls or people. Akala ya'kul, to eat or consume. Buyut means houses. Aba or ikhwan or akhawat. Aba mean fathers, ikhwan mean brothers, akhawat mean sisters. Mean mother, ummahat plural mean mothers. Am, uncle, a'mam, uncles from the dad's side. Amma, it's the auntie from or paternal aunt from the dad's side. Khal is the mother brother or maternal uncle. Khala is the maternal aunt or the mother's sister. Sadiq means friend. Junah means permissible. Jami'an, all together. Ashtatan means separated or dispersed. So at the outmost of the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reassures His believing servants that there is no problem in the handicapped and disabled joining others for meals. Initially, it appears that the verse aimed at eliminating disdain of such people. common in the pre-Islamic period. This is certainly true for arrogance or is detested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some people in the pre-Islamic era before Islam, they have upper class and lower class. People cannot eat together or sit together on the same table to eat together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear to everyone that everyone is equal and you can eat with each other. There's no issue with that. And this is a quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala detests. Arrogance and showing arrogance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like them. The Prophet said in the hadith, there's no one will enter paradise with an atom weight of arrogance in his heart. And in some narration, with a mustard seed weight of arrogance in his heart. And the Prophet ﷺ warned us in the Mirror's hadith. However, it was a different issue which preceded this revelation, one that arose due to the piety of the companions and their sensitivity towards one another. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, "O you who believe, do not consume one another property unjustly." So when that ayah was revealed, the Sahaba were cautious to eat in each other's houses, because that's what the general meaning of the ayah. "O you who believe, do not consume one another property unjustly." Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained that in this ayah that you can, as long as, with good heart. So, and that was Surah An-Nisa. "O you who believe, do not consume one another property unjustly." People became extremely cautious, for food was considered a most valuable property. Back then, still today, we like food. Because the blind could not see what was before him. He might be deprived of favored portions. The cripple might not be able to eat fast enough to take his due share. And the sick person similarly, due to lack of appetite. So to avoid the slightest injustice to handicapped person, they began to keep his food separate, fearing to share it with him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the first part of this verse as alleviation for all of that. So the second part came as a response to the reluctance of visitors and some absence to accept food offered by his wife, or child, or servant. It gives a general permission not only to relatives but to slave, hired workers, caretakers, and close friends to eat according to the need and custom from Muslim homes, whether the owner is present or not. So the list of the houses begins with one's own, serving to demonstrate that just as one may eat freely in his own house, he may do so as well in those whose mention follows. The house of the son, the daughter, has not been cited separately, since it was generally understood and acknowledged that children, their achievement and properties are attributes to the parents, and that's your house. Include those of your children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Messenger said, "You and your wealth belong to your father." That's why it's not mentioned in the ayah, because it was a general understanding among everyone that the house of your son or house of your daughter is your house and belongs to you as a parent. Okay? As the Prophet ﷺ stated that in the hadith. أَنْتَ وَمَالُكَ لِأَبِيكَ. Your house or your wealth, you and your wealth belong to your father. So your children among the best of your acquisitions. So you may consume from the acquisitions of your children without permission. For the adult child who is now the head of his own household, it is not only a matter of differences out of respect, but reflects an obligation towards parents who may no longer be self-sufficient in later years. So it becomes an obligation on the son or the daughter to take care of the parents. Scholars have added that the mention of your houses, which might seem the most obvious place in which one may eat, serves three functions. To include the houses of children, to specify that whatever food is food in the place of residence is permitted to all of its residents. So it's not just one person, but everyone who live in their house, it's permissible for them to eat from the fridge or the kitchen. That's all belong to them. Okay? And to affirm that food brought or prepared by any of the residents and not the owner alone is also included in the permission. obligation. So anyone in that house prepare food, everyone live in that house, by Islamic law, they're allowed to eat. As if they one family live in that house. The list of the houses that follows has been cited by the Hanafi and the Hanbali scholars as a proof of obligation of relatives to support and maintain one another. This is also another guidance we learn from the ayah, is to support one another, to take care of one another. Those who keys you possess, referring to the houses, states clearly the right of a servant or caretaker. So you might not own the house, but you own the key or have the key. You probably come and clean the house, or take care of the house, or do the gardening, or do something, and you are permitted to enter the house by the landlord or by the owner of the house. Then you are allowed to eat from there by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so if you own the keys, that means you can eat. Alright? So the care worker to satisfy his hunger from the property in the absence, or we could say someone who's taking care of a farm, for example, or a garden, and that garden got orchards, apples. Sorry?
Shed or a house?
No, that's different.
Oh.
Okay, so if you have the key for it, this is someone caretaker who take care of that garden, or take care of that farm. He's allowed to eat from it. Aisha radiallahu anha reported that when some of the Muslims accompanied the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on various campaigns, they would leave the keys with a slave or caretaker and say, "We allow you to consume whatever you need." But they would say, "It is not lawful for us to eat, for they permitted us unwillingly, out of necessity, and we are trustworthy." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, "Of those whose key you possess." So at the beginning, before the revelation of this ayah, some of the slaves or some of the care workers, before the landlord leave on an expedition, they would leave the key with them and says, "You're allowed to eat." And they thought this is because, they were shy to tell them, you take care of the place but don't touch anything. So, and they thought that this is unjustly, that out of, wara, out of cautiousness to consume something is not halal. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or being called as untrustworthy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this ayah to allow them to eat and enjoy themselves as well. So of those who has the key or they possess. The words have further also been interpreted to mean that anyone put in charge of another property has this right. So if you're ever in charge in any property, you have the right. And it includes those who care for orphans and disabled people as well as their possessions. Finally, the friend has been mentioned, meaning the intimate or sincere friend who is entrusted or trusted completely with one's family and property. Of course, you want the one who comes to you, trust them with your family or trust them with your children or with your belongings. Other acquaintances are to be treated with the honor and respect due to guests, although their right is more restricted. So the one who close, like we have those close friends that would come in the house and just straight away to the fridge get something to eat, right? And we have guests that they come and we have the guest room that they just sit there and we offer them what we want to offer them. So that's also understood in this ayah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred to that intimate or close friends that they allow to enjoy themselves as well in your house when they come, and that's halal. So the close friend or sadiq is one who would protect his friend's property, respect his wishes, and avoid causing him any hardship or distress. Some commentators have pointed out that the chosen friend is often more beloved and trustworthy than the relative. Yeah. Is that true? Yeah. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him equal status in this ruling to encourage and maintain such relationship among the believers, about whom he said the believers are but brothers. Right? To encourage our sisterhood feelings among the Sahaba. Okay? Which is beautiful. The third part of the verse was revealed to invalidate one of the pre-Islamic customs which held no benefit to society. The Arabs had always been known for their generosity, although it was often a matter of pride. And that's true. When they used to offer food for people, they would offer it just to show off. Right? And we still, subhanAllah, still see this today. You know, yes. Haven't you seen the photos on the internet and videos of people winnings, especially in our Arab and Muslim countries? They go extravagant. They would make food way more than the people would eat. You can see people gathering around like a whole camel. 5 people. How can you eat a whole camel? Like 5, 6, 10 people, 20 people, just around one camel. You see it like a mountains of rice, right? We see that, and this is extravagant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us from this. Allah does not like those who are musrifeen, those who are extravagant. Allah la yuhibbul musrifeen. Allah does not love or like those who are extravagant. And this is an actually pre-Islamic habit or pre-Islamic issues that people brought even after Islam, and they still do it until today. It still exists in our community because it's tradition, and Islam, regardless of the teaching, a lot of people were negligent or weren't educated enough about the teaching of Islam. They're Muslim, but they're not putting enough effort to learn about these etiquettes and manners, and that's why they fall for these mistakes. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us from this. You feed people, you feed it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for the sake of pride. And we spoke about this before when people, the first 3 people, that they're going to be dragged on their faces to the hellfire. One of them is the munfiq. One of them is someone who loves to give charity, but he does it not for the sake of Allah. He does it for the sake of pride or showing off. Indeed, this is applied to this person as well. We invite people to eat for the sake of showing off, right? And in Egypt, sometimes we have the Mawa'id al-Rahman, and we get the names of the people who does it. Like in Ramadan, they invite people. They make a ma'idah or table full of food and invite those people fasting to break the fast. But at the same time, they put a big sign, like saying this is Ma'idat al-Rahman, the Hajj Fulan and Fulan, or this is the such and such, biggest kitchen soup or whatever you call it for people to come and eat. So it's part of pride as well. It's not doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Arabs, yes.
I just remember, how about those people that come to visit, like they are told you have to feed them for 3 days, is that right?
They come to eat for 3 days. They have rights, if they're visitors, they have rights. If they're guests, they have rights. 3 days. Yeah, 3 days you feed them, and after that you kick them out. And they're willing to stay more than that. But yeah, it's up to you after the 3rd day. It's an obligation for 3 days. Sort of an obligation if you can afford it, and after 3 days you're not obliged to host them. You can freely tell them, that's enough. You can go. Yeah, you can, of course. Yeah. Okay. So the Arabs had always been known for their generosity, although it was often a matter of pride and ostentation. Certain of the tribes considered it humiliating to eat alone, to the extent that man might drive his sheep while enduring hunger for an entire day until he found someone with whom to share his food and drink. This is a beautiful trait. You can't, I feel embarrassed to eat on my own, or I feel humiliated to eat on my own. Well, a lot of people, they want to eat on their own, right? Right, so they enjoy themselves. They don't want to share with anyone. And some of Ash'ab, if you read about Ash'ab, he was, it's a well-known character in Arab history. He's a mutataffil. He's someone who always invite himself to people's houses. If he sees someone's eating, he would force himself in. And on that street there was like a family. They know him very well. And the guy and his son was eating, but they were sitting on the roof of the house. So he called him, Ashraf, come and eat with us. He knew that he cannot reach there. So he invited him, but he doesn't want him to join. Alright? So they were sitting there enjoying himself. So Ashraf went for a while and came on a camel. And the camel was the same level as... And then he sat on his camel and ate with them. So the man was really upset that next time I wouldn't invite him. So he found his own way. There's a book about him. It's like it's all funny stories. Mm. So yeah, some people are stingy, some people don't like to share food as well. But the common culture among the Arabs, they like to feed other people. Some they do it for the sake of pride, which is this is not Islamic. Another report mentioned a tribe that disliked eating in company. So that quite the opposite. So its members took their meals individually at a distance from one another. All such restrictions were lifted with Allah's word. There is no blame upon you, whether you eat together or separately. So if you like it that way, if this is more comfortable to you, there is no blame. So Allah, the Quran came to acknowledge some of these traditions, which is not contradicting religion. Islam still acknowledges it, as long as there is no harm to cause to anyone. So some people like to eat, at work, we often eat in our office rather than in the staff room, because sometimes we don't feel comfortable eating in front of other people. Not because we don't want to share our food, but it's just uncomfortable. Yeah. So Allah says there's no blame if you want to do it that way, and indeed it's traits from people before us. Some tribes, their tradition is just not to eat together. You just eat separate. Even from the same household, they would eat separate. Someone takes their food and just sit a distance from each other and eat. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends in a position to acknowledge those traditions, as long as it's not against the Quran or the Sunnah or not causing harm to anyone. So there's no harm of acknowledging this. There is no blame upon you whether you eat together or separately. So it is known, however, that the Prophet ﷺ preferred meals in company. This is the sunnah. You eat in company. When he said eat together and do not separate, for the blessing is with the group. Right? When you eat in a group, you get more blessing, more barakah in the food. And he mentioned in hadith before that the food for one, it can feed two. And the food for two can feed four. Right? Because the barakah. Allah brings barakah. Alright? When someone invites people to eat with him, Allah brings barakah in. In conclusion, the verse ordered every Muslim, when entering the houses of others, to greet the occupants with the greeting of peace ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is commanded. They were commanded by Allah. Whenever we enter a house, we should stick to the teaching of Islam. We should say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh when we enter those houses. Even if your own house, when you enter, this is a way of teaching the children of the household that you should say Assalamu alaikum when you go and visit other people and when you come to your own house. Okay? Assalamu alaikum. Houses may also include mosques or other places of assembly, as mentioned in relation to previous verses. We talked about this before in Ayah 27. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word anfusakum, or yourself, rather than one another, describing the Muslim community as one body. Okay? When Allah says in ayah ليس على
It's the end of the ayah.
أيوة ليس عليكم جناح أن تأكلوا جميعا أو دخلتم فسلموا على أنفسكم. Allah says فسلموا على أنفسكم. How can you say salam to yourself? Right? But this is what the actual verse says. Hey, salam, or say salam to yourself. But anfusikum, it doesn't mean yourself, but it reflects a higher and bigger and more beloved meaning, which is we all consider as oneself, as a Muslim community, as one body. So that was the general the guidance in this in relating or revealing the ayah that way. على أنفسكم فسلموا على أنفسكم. Say salam to. Normally we say salam to others, right? But once we say salam to others, it's barakah in there. As if like we say salam to others, we say salam to ourselves. Because they respond to us and they retain the salam as well. And also anfusikum mean here the human or the Muslim community. And this meaning has been covered in many ayahs. And I remember in Surah Al-Hujurat as well. One of the verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred the Muslim community as also anfusikum. To highlight this beautiful meaning of brotherhood or one body, the ummah body. Okay? The greeting of peace is supplication for Muslims as well as a pledge that they will not be harmed. Scholars added that this order makes it unlawful to replace the greeting with one used by the non-Muslims. So we ordered to use Assalamu alaikum instead of hello, hi, how you go. The verse's rulings are again confirmed and emphasized by the reminder that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them clear and understandable. Indeed, everything was clear in this ayah. In ayah number 62, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَإِذَا كَانُوا مَعَهُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ جَامِعٍ لَمْ يَذْهَبُوا حَتَّى يَسْتَأْذِنُوهُ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَأْذِنُونَكَ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فإذا استأذنوك لبعض شأنهم فأذن لمن شئت منهم واستغفر لهم الله إن الله غفور رحيم. The believers are only those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and when they are with Him on a matter of common interest, do not depart until they have asked His permission. Indeed, those who ask you permission, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those are the ones who believe in Allah and His Messenger. So when they ask you permission due to something of their affairs, then give permission to whom you will among them and ask forgiveness for them of Allah. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Mu'min, amana, we know the meaning of mu'min as a believer, amana, to believe, Rasul, a messenger, amr, matter, or the plural of it, matters or affairs, jami', comprehensive or general or common, ذهب يذهب, to go, to leave or depart, adina, to seek permission, istaghfir, to seek forgiveness. The verse begins with a description of a true believer as opposed to the hypocrites who despite their declaration of loyalty, sought out any excuse to avoid obligations. It also suggests that the proper conduct for a Muslim includes asking permission to leave as well as to enter, and greeting others as directed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, when one of you arrives at a meeting, he should greet with salam, and when he intends to go, he should greet with salam, for the former is not more of a right than the later. So both when we leave and when we come and when we leave. The discipline practiced by the Sahaba is giving as an example and instructions for the Ummah in general. When summoned by the Prophet ﷺ for an important matter, they would not leave without permission and would not request permission without a genuine need. So this ayah, in contrast with, remember in the last 2 weeks we talked about some of the characteristics of the hypocrites, and they would make excuse not to attend or not to go with the Prophet ﷺ. But in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about those who have genuine reasons, and they come to the Prophet ﷺ with a full heart, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to give them permission and make istighfar to them and allow them to go if they have a reason for it. Okay, and also give the Sahaba commandments that do not leave without seeking a permission from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, you must request permission. There's a directive to the Prophet ﷺ in this ayah, and whoever will succeed him as a leader of the community, or the Muslim community, to use his discretion in granting or refusing leave according to circumstances, weighing the urgency of an individual need against that of the matter at hand. So this is applied to, a business owner and someone who can take care of other workers or other people as well. If they come with a sick leave, or have a genuine reason to not to come or not to follow the instructions, then the leader has to weigh those evidence or circumstances in a matter of urgency of each individual separately and make judgment. And this is the instruction to the Prophet ﷺ, and everyone succeeded the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah commanded the Prophet ﷺ to be merciful and forgiving of them. In ayah number 63, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول بينكم كدعاء بعضكم بعضا قد يعلم الله الذين يتسللون منكم لواذا فليحذر الذين يخالفون عن أمره أن تصيبهم فتنة أو يصيبهم عذاب أليم. We have 2 more verses to go. We wish to finish the surah next week, inshallah, and then will be our last week for this semester.
Yep.
Inshallah, and we can maybe celebrate
Yes.
the completion of Surah Al-Nur, inshallah. So, Jazakallah khairan for coming tonight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all and benefit from you and benefit from all of us, inshallah. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الاحياء منهم والاموات انك مولانا سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات ورافع الدرجات. ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.